The Middle East is as violent and volatile as it has been at any time in probably the last half century. That is no exaggeration based on all the things that are going on right now and the things that may be going on very soon. Just in the last few days, there have been large scale terrorist attacks. There have been assassinations in multiple countries. And of course, all this is on top of the massive war going on between Israel and Hamas. And you have all of the countries in the region that are, fighting over this and struggling over what to do. You have a NATO ally, Turkey, that's talking about possibly getting involved against Israel, which would put us in a terrible situation. Our own troops are being attacked, and many of them have been injured and wounded. Our ships have been engaged in combat operations in the Red Sea. Everywhere you want to look, the violence is continuing to escalate, and the implications for the United States are significant. Now, earlier today, this morning, there was a large terrorist attack in Iran, where there was a large demonstration or a large grouping of people got together to commemorate the assassination of one of their generals by the United States in 2020, General Soleimani. In the middle of that commemoration, a couple of bombs went off and killed at least 103 people so far, wounding quite a large number of others. We don't even know for sure all the details of that yet. There have been not too many details come out of that. And of course, many in the region will automatically think that was Israel. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Iran has a lot of enemies, and it certainly could have been others. But on top of all the things that are going on, this is causing a great deal of anxiety in the region and just adding to the risks that the war in Israel could expand out of the Gaza Strip. And then, of course, if that happens, the potential for drawing the United States goes way up. Now, earlier today, or actually just I think an hour or two ago, John Kirby, spokesman for the White House, was answering some questions today about the attack in Iran and about the Israeli assassination of a Hamas leader in Beirut the day before. And here's what he had to say.
We aren't at a point now where we have a lot of great detail on this bombing. Certainly, our hearts go out to all the innocent victims and their family members who are obviously, their lives are going to be forever changed by this. But we don't have any more detail in terms of how it happened or who might be responsible for it. I would just tell you that al-Huri was a noted, designated global terrorist. And if he is in fact dead, nobody should be shedding a tear over his loss.
But can you rule out that Israel had anything to do with this?
We have no indication at this time at all that Israel was involved in any way whatsoever.
Some of those questions actually just kind of puzzle me, or just kind of, you almost laugh at them as though the United States would say, yeah, we found out Israel did it for sure. They did it. And, if Israel, of course, is not saying it. So I don't know what they ever expect Kirby to answer in those questions. But unfortunately, he usually says something that's not true, or very often does. Instead of saying, I'm not going to answer that, he just says, no, we don't know. And unfortunately, that undercuts our trust in our government. And we'll talk about that on another day. But right now, the things that I want to talk about here that you need to know about is that the risk to the United States of getting drawn into a war is much higher than you think. Now, Israel just put into effect a new foreign minister, a guy named Katz, Foreign Minister Katz. And his first day on the job, he says, hey, we're in the middle of a World War III against Iran. They led radical Islam, whose tentacles are already in Europe. So he's trying to set the stage already that Iran is a great big threat, not just to Israel, not just to the region, but to the Western world. And by implication, that we need to take action against Iran. Many in Israel are directly saying that we should take out Iran. And there's some that are suggesting, and John Bolton being one of the big cheerleaders in the U.S., that yes, we should join with Israel and we should go after Iran right now, once and for all, to get rid of that problem. There's a number of problems with that. Just on the surface of it, there's nothing in our Constitution or legal system that allows the President of the United States to choose to go to war against somebody and to attack and destroy another country because we want to get rid of the threat. That's not a proper use of our armed forces. It is catastrophic. It kills people on the ground there. It almost always inevitably gets our people killed, and it doesn't solve anything. So right off the top, that should be just taken off the table and not even discussed, because it violates American law, gets Americans killed. That's point number one. Now, the second issue here is that because all of the things that are going on, all of it centers on this Israel-Hamas war. Everything started off that. Of course, Hamas started it on 10/7, and created this horrible terrorist attack that slaughtered, hundreds of over 1,000 Israeli people, innocent people, brutalized them, and that just shocked all of Israel, made them extremely angry. That all of us can understand, and their desire for revenge and for justice was very high, and it was proper. That's exactly what they should have done. So what we would have done. It's what I would have advocated if I had been in charge. But it's not just doing what the justice, it's also how you do it. And that has implications for us, not just for Israel, because the way they've been going about it is if you've seen any news at all about all these, the wanton complete destruction of entire portions of the entire Gaza Strip, their way of life, hospitals, food places, electricity generation, water facilities, and a whole apartment complexes being leveled to the ground so that there's no way that people can live there even after the war is over. All that is not just a violation of the laws of war, it's also against our interest, because by implication, we're seeing as being part of that. And that is why you see in the Red Sea, the Houthis said, okay, we're coming in on the side of the Palestinian people, and we're going to attack ships in the Red Sea so that until the war stops and people can bring in food to the Palestinians. That's what they're saying. That's the reason they started doing this. They weren't doing it before the war. You have American troops in Syria and Iraq, which we've been talking about many times on our show. Those attacks have now stepped way up because of the war in Hamas against the Palestinian people, against the civilians that are being killed there. There's no way you can justify killing 20,000 innocent civilian people in the Gaza Strip, wiping out their entire cities or portions of them because of what happened to you, that you suffered a terrorist attack. Going after the perpetrators is fine, but killing everybody in the way that's in there is not all right, and not something that we can do. But by implication, that is we're being blamed for that. That's why our troops are coming under assault. Now then you see that Israel has taken the fight into Lebanon. So they have been shooting back and forth. There's been low-level skirmishes on the northern border with Israel between Hezbollah and Israel. It's been going back and forth, kind of a tit for tat. It's kind of a low-level thing, but it's always there. Hasn't exploded into all-out warfare yet. And that's obviously good. We want to keep this thing contained. Now Israel yesterday attacked into Beirut and assassinated one of the senior leaders of Hamas. Now, again, it's an emotionally satisfying moment for many in Israel, because at least according to reports, the man that was assassinated was the mastermind of the 10/7 attacks. But the problem is they killed a bunch of other people also. They attacked inside a sovereign country, and they don't seem to be concerned about that. That's, of course, resulted in today, Hassan Nasrallah, the leader of Hezbollah, has, of course, vowed revenge. He's going to take revenge about this. Israel previously assassinated another Iranian general in Syria. So it's another sovereign country, but they've gone and assassinated someone there. Iran has vowed to have retaliation. Here's the problem for us. Whatever they do, it's not as though that Israel would say, okay, we killed your guy and now you've retaliated against us, so now we're even. Of course they won't. Whatever those Hassan Nasrallah does, whatever Iran does, it's going to be responded to. And so you're going to continue to go up the rung of the ladder of escalation. And the chance of war that we could get sucked into goes higher. The chance of our troops getting attacked in Iraq and Syria will go even higher. Our ships in the Red Sea will come under increasing threat directly from the Houthis, especially if we make good on our threats that will attack directly into Yemen. If any more of these ships in the Red Sea are attacked, that draws us further into that fight. Everywhere you want to look, there's the possibility of us drawing into another fight. Now, some in the United States are starting to recognize this, and I'm glad for it. You had Bernie Sanders, who published a statement yesterday in which he said, while we recognize that Hamas's barbaric terrorist attacks began this war, we must also recognize that Israel's military response has been grossly disproportionate, immoral, and in violation of international law. Enough is enough. Congress must reject that funding. The taxpayers of the United States must no longer be complicit in destroying the lives of innocent men, women, and children in Gaza. And of course, Israel cannot continue its war, at least at the level it has been, unless it has the backing of the United States, both morally in the United Nations and on the ground physically with armaments. They require our missiles, anti-aircraft missiles, artillery shells, just other bullets, many kinds of warfare attributes, ammunition. They have to have that. We have to look at our own national interests. It is imperative that the President of the United States ensure our safety and our security of our interest in the region, as well as our national security, the security of our troops. I hear so many times where the president puts out statements that says the well-being and safety of our troops is our highest priority. Terrific. That's what it should be. And if that's the case, then the first thing you need to do is get those troops that are in pointless harm's way, redeploy them to elsewhere in the region where they're not at risk, where the Iran groups can't get them. Right now, they're just easy targets that are always attacked. And it's just a matter of time, probably, until one of those attacks gets through, kills an American, and then it's going to be us that is, having to respond and retaliate against something else, against probably a target in Iran. Iran doesn't want to get into a war with the United States. They can't go toe to toe with us. They're not strong enough. They want to avoid a war. But if we attack them, they're going to retaliate. They're going to respond because their leaders probably wouldn't be able to stay in power if they didn't. Everywhere you want to look, the risk of war is going up down in the Red Sea, in Iraq, in Syria, in Lebanon, and of course, obviously in the Israel and the Gaza Strip. It is time for America to start prioritizing our national security and stop just blanket blindly just supporting whatever Israel wants to do. They have been our ally for a long time, for our friends, and it's a wonderful country. There's many good things about it. But that does not mean that we give them a blank check to do whatever they want to do, especially when it's doing stuff that could harm our interest. Just imagine if our blanket support for Israel ends up getting American troops killed in Iraq or Syria as a direct result of what's been going on in this war. And we did nothing to even stop it. We didn't get our troops out when we had the chance. We didn't try to constrain Israel in what they were doing to try to get them to say, yes, it's just for you to go after the people who perpetrated terrorist attacks. It is not okay to go beyond the pale and to violate international law that we ourselves try to hold other countries to. If that gets Americans killed and draws us into a war when even more Americans would have to die, that is unforgivable. Right now, it hasn't happened. So I just admonish the president with all that I can say, take action now while we still can. Don't wait until it's too late. And then we're trapped in an escalating cycle of violence that we can't get out of. Because the minute that an American is killed, there's just almost no way the president can just say, okay, well, now we'll withdraw. We won't do anything, even though that'd probably be the right answer. Don't wait until that happens. Take action now. America deserves that. We thank you very much for joining us today. We are always unintimidated and uncompromised in bringing you the truth and the things that you need to see, especially things like this. And we ask you to do whatever you can to hold our leaders to the feet to the fire. Send letters to your congressman. Write your own op-eds, whatever you want to do, but don't be silent on this because American lives are at stake here. And that is a very important thing to me. And as someone who served, I don't ever want to see any American die pointlessly. We risk our lives to defend you, to defend our country if it's necessary, if we're attacked. But don't let our Americans be killed just because we don't want to get them out of harm's way. That's a terrible waste of our lives. Thank you very much. And join us tomorrow on Deep Dive. We have a great one for you. A lot of people talk about the military industrial complex and, how it's a lot of wasted money. And certainly that's a problem. But as we're going to show you with two great people, it's a lot more serious than that. And it could actually undermine our own national security. Turn in at that at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. Thanks. And we'll see you tomorrow.